Hi, this is Chaplain Tyler, and you're watching this video on You Got This with Tyler. My history as a chaplain, I've always been very interested in personalities and what values each kind of personality has, and if there are any patterns, and what does that look like. One of the things that I decided to do was I did take a degree in psychology and sociology, and I also took as part of that the art and the science of psychometric testing, which is psychological testing for things like IQ and personalities, and we looked at many different types and their reliability, the validity, and whether they were any good, really. And it was really interesting to see kind of what has come up in the last 50, 60 years for different personality tests and different types of things like that. But let me back up. There is something that we need to talk about, which is pattern recognition. Recognizing patterns, and we have to determine, is that something that is worthwhile or not? And when I was doing my research, I came across a wonderful article that I'm going to read you a quote from. The article is called "The Profound Power of Pattern Recognition." And let me read you this quote, and then I'll talk just about it just a little bit. Pattern recognition is not just a cognitive skill, but a fundamental aspect of human intelligence that shapes our perception of the world. It operates at the intersection of perception, memory, and interpretation, driving creativity, innovation, and problem solving. That's fairly profound, actually. What that's saying is that our higher function as human beings, a higher cognitive function, really comes down to pattern recognition. Perception, memory, and interpretation are very important to us as human beings. Perceiving patterns is absolutely vital. If I describe a particular kind of an object, you should be able to understand very quickly what I'm talking about. A relatively round object with looks like two eyes, a nose, and a mouth. Well, that's very easy to describe. That's a face. If I add a few more details, including hair and ears, forehead, chin, then you have the picture of an entire head. That's your perception. That's what you see in your mind's eye. Memory is a little different. Memory says, what are all the different associations with that particular thing? I want to call that thing by name. So let's say, for example, I give you another description. About a 12-foot long, rectangular, three-dimensional object on four wheels with seats on the floor of it. It's up off the ground. Looks like there's one wheel attached to kind of a board. And then there's looks like there's a mirror hanging down. And there's straps that can come down from across the shoulders. Well, I'm obviously talking about a kind of vehicle. Perception says that's what the vehicle is. Memory says, that's a car. That is a specific type. If I give you more details, then you can actually describe the kind of vehicle and what that looks like. Interpretation is what gives all the nuances and associations regarding that object. So, for example, to know more information, you would want to say, is that my vehicle? If it is, maybe I can get in and drive it. If it's not my vehicle, then is it stationary? Is it not stationary? Do I need to move out of the way? Is this a potential danger? Is this something I want? Is this something I don't want? All of these are interpretations. Do I like the color? Do I like the model? Do I like the make? All those associations give us our system for evaluating that particular object. Now, pattern recognition goes further than that, and it talks It gives us our sense of creativity. When we find patterns that exist, we can follow those patterns, trace those patterns, and come up with something new. That's also innovation. And problem solving is what happens when we take those patterns and we apply them and say, this worked for me last time, let me do that. Or, this isn't working for me, and this didn't work for me last time, let me try something new. That's where problem solving comes in. All of those things occur with pattern recognition. So that's why we have looked for patterns, and also because we want to understand. We want to get a sense of who and what is around us. Science is nothing more than trying to explain what we see in our natural phenomenon. That's what science is. What we're doing is we're taking that scientific approach, looking for patterns in people's personalities. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's very helpful. That particular endeavor has a long history. The first real system of interpretation of people that we have comes from the father of medicine, the Greek philosopher Hippocrates, in about 400 BC. He came up with 4 different personality types called sanguine, choleric, phlegmatic, and melancholic. I will not try to tell you what each one means and how it works. I remember taking this a long time ago in my sociology classes, and the words really didn't mean anything to me at that time, and they don't mean that much to me today either. And all the way through history, things kind of stagnated. That's kind of where everybody went. We took the Greek philosophers' word for things, and we interpreted things and people's personalities based on those types. And it wasn't until the 1920s when psychiatrist Carl Jung looked at those types and said, that really isn't working for me. I need to come up with something else. And so he came up with 4 new ones. They're called the thinker, the feeler, the sensor, and the intuitor. Now that might be somewhat familiar to you, because those words are used in the next stage of the evolution of the personality test, which came in the 1950s from a mother and daughter pairing. Mother's name was Catherine Cook Briggs, and the daughter's name was Isabel Briggs Myers. And together they added 2 new dimensions. They took Carl Jung's 4 types, and they added 2 new dimensions with 4 possibilities on each, or on 2 possibilities on each dimension, making 4 new things. And they came up with what is now called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And it's one of the most well-known and valid, as far as we can tell, examinations of personality types. It was in the 1950s. There were several things that happened after that, but I'm going to come to those in another video. As Western society in particular started using the Myers-Briggs, they started to understand that there were some problems, and they didn't really know what to do with them. The first thing that happened was that people started to notice that depending on a person's mood and depending on what was going on, the results of that type indicator would change. So the reliability of that personality test came into question. Second thing is that the Myers-Briggs was very complex relatively for most people to understand. There were 16 different personality combinations, and each one had a different set of things that interacted. And 16 different ways to interpret personalities became a problem. It was not easy to hear somebody say, I am a ISJT, and people go, what does that mean? I have no clue. Don't get it. And so what people have said about the Myers-Briggs is that it's probably best in understanding oneself, but is not good for understanding another person. So again, complexity is a problem. And the third thing is that it's very difficult to apply relatively in a simple and quick, easy manner. So I know several different teams, high-level executive teams that have taken the Myers-Briggs in an effort to try to do that as a team-building exercise. And they go into a lot of detail, and they have a professional facilitator come in, and they go through it. And at the end of it, they go, wow, I understand myself so much better, but I still have no clue who my teammate is. It just is really hard to apply. Now, that brought up the problem that a lot of personality inventories have now, which is changing reliability and changing validity, which are two criteria that are really needed to make something worthwhile. And I've been doing a lot of thought about this and why this is the case. What I came up with is I have three different things that kind of make a difference for how people interpret the results of these personality tests. The first one is that these tests are very dependent upon what a person is thinking and feeling at any particular moment. So a person will answer one way when they're in a good state of mind, and they'll answer a different way perhaps when they're in a different state of mind or under different situational stress. And it doesn't make that test very reliable. The second thing that then brings up is, what is the test actually measuring? I want to know my personality. I want to know what are my values and what works for me and what doesn't work for me, and how I need to treat others and how I need to be treated, and what are my core principles and ethics and things like that. That's what I'm asking a personality inventory or test to tell me. But it doesn't seem like a lot of these are talking about that. They seem to be measuring different things for different people. And again, that does not make for a very valid test. Lastly, because of these differences in reliability and validity, is it even possible to get anything of value out of these? Are these just gobbledygook? Are they just psycho babble? Do they just tell us what we want to hear? Are they only good for stroking our ego? Those are powerful questions, and they need to be answered. And in the next video, I'm going to talk a little more specifically about how to answer these kinds of questions, how to answer and fill out these personality tests in such a way that you're going to get the best result, the most accurate result, and the most reliable result. There is a place for personality tests. I've taken dozens and dozens of them multiple times, and some of them are very, very good. Some of them are not so good, and they don't help with a lot. And I will be talking about the one that I have found to be the best in another video. But for now, that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. And to give you an idea of, is there something to be gained from taking these personality tests? The answer is yes. But it depends on what you're looking for, and it depends on how you answer them. And that's what we're going to talk about next time. This is Chaplain Tyler, and you've been watching You Got This with Tyler. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and just newly on TikTok, and soon to be LinkedIn. Have a very blessed day. I believe in you. And remember, you got this. Bye-bye.